Welcome to our next episode of Your Music, Your Story. We're talking with T-Bone Willie from Bite Me Bambi.
Right on. Thanks, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. It's because I remember I did one with Chris Grau, and he was like, "Yeah, I did a video with Bite Me Bambi," and I heard the name before, but that's about all that I had heard.
Okay.
And then I was talking with Dave. He's like, "Yeah, you can hit up him. He's busy, but you can hit him up."
Right on.
So I said, "All
Yeah,
right, we'll give it a whirl."
we've done a lot of work with Chris Grau over the last couple of years. He's the man when it comes to doing music videos and supporting the scene and just musician and just overall awesome guy for sure. And Dave's cool too.
Yeah, we all like Dave. Yeah, he was. But yeah, he was. It was fun to talk with him and him and his little videos and making the video game videos with all. And I'm like, goodness gracious, that's complex.
Yeah, he's legit. And it's cool too because I've known him for a while and he's always been supportive of the local scene and just like helping bands out. And, one of his mantras is like rising tides lifts all boats, where it's just like, if one band in the scene, ska punk, whatever is doing well, then it helps everybody and just makes the scene a better place. So he's always been like, he's the guy that'll tell any and every band the secret sauce. He doesn't like keep things to himself. He's like, whatever we can tell to like help other bands, move their careers along or get themselves out there. Like he's super just awesome guy like that.
Well, there needs to be more people like that in the world.
Yep. Especially in the scene, because the scene, it's all about bringing new people. You don't want to be gatekeepers, and I mean, because there's plenty of that. There always has been, where people are like, I'm the guy who decides what's what and what's cool and what's not cool, and I decide what's reggae or ska or punk, and if it's not what I like, then it sucks. And it's like it's a lot. There's always been a lot of that.
That's one of the unfortunate thing. I think that's in everywhere. Like everything has those gatekeepers, unfortunately.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
So before we get into your Bite Me Bambi, when I was looking at your little profile on there, Bite Me Bambi, you
Mhm.
have quite the extensive record there. I mean, I know it said on there you did with Hepcat on the Nigel, because that came out like early 90s, right?
Yeah, 91 or 92, I think it was.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
did you just do on that album or did you play with them, like shows?
Well, it's kind of a weird story. I was playing in a band called the Imperials. They were one of like the local, like Orange County, Riverside, LA ska bands that I was playing in back then. And we did a show with them. It was one of their first shows, but it was at a club called Spanky's out in Riverside. And I remember I was actually not watching them play, but I was like in the dressing room area, and I remember hearing them and going, "Who is that?" And it was funny because it sounded like it was a whole horn section. And so I run out there and I look, and there was one sax player, Raul, and he had a whole bunch of pedals. And this was early on before they had the other horn players and stuff. And so but he was doing all the horn lines and he just had these effects. So it sounded like it was a whole horn section, but it was just one alto sax doing everything. And so I was like, that's wild. And so the trumpet player in the band I was in, he was talking to him and stuff after the show. And they were saying that they were getting ready to go do some demos and stuff with Joey from Jump with Joey was going to produce it for him. And so they hit us up and said, hey, would you guys be interested in being our full horn section for the recording? And of course, we're like, yeah, sure. And they were still nobody really, just kind of up and coming band and stuff. So we went out to Greg's house, Greg from Hepcat, to his house up in LA. And I think we learned like 5 or 6 songs and just learned them that morning, recorded them as we learned them. So it was just really quick, just
Oh, wow.
learned them, did them. And I think we were just over there all day recording and stuff with Joey. And then, so it was, like I said, 5 or 6 song demo that they had. But that was the only song that they took from that session and put on the vinyl 45. The other songs, I have a recording of them somewhere where it's Hepcat with a whole horn section, which is cool because I don't think they've ever recorded with a whole horn section before. They've always just had trumpet and sax or 2 saxes on all their other recordings. So,
So if
yeah.
that was in the early 90s, what did you guys record on? Was it like an 8-track or something like that, a 4-track? Or reel to reel?
I have no memory of the equipment, so I don't know. Knowing Joey and Hepcat, they were all rootsy and just trying to do stuff like OG and stuff. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't like a reel to reel type system. But honestly, I have no memory of the recording equipment. So that's a great question that has been lost in my brain, and somebody else in Hepcat might still remember it.
Well, that was what, 30 years ago? I mean,
Oh my God, yeah, right.
you know,
So But then after that, like I said, I remember like for a minute being like thinking about playing with them, but they're all up in the valley and I'm down in Orange County, and that was just really far to be doing like weekly band practice trips and stuff. And I've always been really good friends with them. Later I toured with a band, I toured with Dancehall Crashers. And Hepcat was the opening band. It was the first time Hepcat had toured the United States. And so I got to do my first tour with them when they did their first tour. And then all the other bands I've been in, and we've played with them and hung out with those guys. And yeah, we've known those guys forever. And just, they're one of the best ska bands in the world by a long shot.
Nice. So what was it like when you say that you were learning the songs and recording them that day? Did they already have it pre-written, or you were just kind of figuring out what you wanted to play with the song, or how'd that work?
They would show us like the basic horn line, and then we would kind of figure out the harmonies, figure out how we wanted to, make the horn line a little prettier. And then I remember there being some solos, like on the song I did with Nigel. I did a trombone solo on that, and that was like, you know, we're gonna hit record and just figure it out and just make something up on the spot. And I think I got like maybe 3 or 4 passes at it. Not my best solo, but it worked. It was in the key, and we moved on to the next thing.
I guess that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Not playing some weird key.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't want to do too much jazz.
Yeah. So when you did Dancehall Crashers, now I've seen some videos with them and they don't have a horn section. So, and it's just live shows. So is it just kind of, if they have horns available, they'll do shows with horns, or how does that work for them?
Well, this is kind of their world, but my understanding, they kind of had 2 versions of the band. There was an early version where they had a horn section, and their first, they call it the old album, or their old record. It's the yellow one that they have all their older songs. When they recorded
like
all
Scooby Doo, or not the Brown.
Yeah, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, Peanuts thing on it.
Yeah, it's that album. So all the songs on that album, they've got horns, and those horn players were in the band and everything. And then my understanding was the band kind of took a hiatus. They stopped doing everything for a little bit, and then when they picked it up again, they grabbed horn players and used horn players so that they could play the older songs. But my understanding was it wasn't that they kicked anybody out. It was just that people left and went, "Hey, I'm not going to play horn with you anymore. I'm going to go to college or whatever." And then they were just constantly replace. And then eventually they were like, you know what? It's kind of a hassle having to like replace people all the time and stuff. Let's just do it with 2 guitars, just have one guitar player playing all the horn lines, and then, another guy doing the offbeat rhythm and stuff. And so, when I toured with them in '94, I think that was the last tour they did with a horn player, and it was just me. It was just trombone. So,
oh wow, that was it, huh?
Yeah, and so it was kind of, that's how they did it. And then I think there was a minute where they were talking to me about joining the band, but kind of the same deal. That band is based up in the Bay Area, and so I was like, I didn't really want to relocate, and I was just kind of, happy to do the tour with them. It was an awesome experience and everything, and still really good friends with all those guys.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I was just curious. I remember seeing a video, and because I'm not up on my Dancehall Crashers, and I just remember because a lot of the videos I seen just wasn't any horns, so I was thinking, oh, but maybe that's why, I guess.
No, it's funny you would catch that, because I remember they got a lot of grief in the local scene. A lot of the people in the crowd were like chanting, "Where's the horns?" and stuff like that, and it lingered for a while. It wasn't just like something that they had to deal with for like a summer. It was like, nah, people kept bringing it up over and over, like, "Where's their horns?" and stuff, because it was a big part of their early version of the band. And then, when they transitioned, like later '90s stuff, it was like, no horns. So, yeah, so I kind of felt bad that they got a lot of crap for that. And I know they were bummed out about it, but at the same time, it's like, it's hard to tour with 10 people in a bus or in a van or whatever,
I could see that.
We'd always look at MXPX and be super jealous because they'd have like 4 guys or 3 guys, and we'd be like, "Oh man, we got so many of us."
We have a whole crew, because Bite Me Bambi you have what, 4 horns in there, 3?
3 horns, but there's 7 in the band because we have keyboards also. So yeah,
Okay.
There's 7 of us total. So it's a lot of heads. It's a lot of heads.
So on there, you also have that you played with Save Ferris. How was that? Because I'm not lie, when that album came out, I'm like, these are some awesome songs.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild part of my life. I mean, before Say Ferris had come around, I'd already been playing in ska bands since like, the late 80s. So I'd been doing it for a while. It was funny too, because I remember when, because Say Ferris had been a band for like 3 or 4 months before I joined it. And they approached me to play horn for them. And they approached me like I was the old veteran guy, because I think I was 22 or 23 and they were all still in high school. And it was funny because I remember being like, all these little kids and stuff. But I remember the first band practice that I went to with them, they were pretty sloppy, like as a band. They had some good songs, but they weren't super tight. And I remember the lead singer being really talented, and just being like, there's some opportunity here, like this could be a really good band. And I remember after the first practice I did with them, we went to Denny's, because that's what you did back in the 90s. You'd go to Denny's after every practice. And at like 2 a.m, I remember kind of, talking about all the different things that they were thinking about doing with the band and stuff. And I said, who's ready to quit school and quit their job and hit the road and, make this a full-time thing? And everybody rose their hand. And I was like, I'm in, because I knew the band would get tighter as we played more and practiced more and stuff like that. So that's kind of what got me really excited about playing in that band, is that whole start of it. And then from then on, we played 5 nights a week. We were constantly playing, practicing. And I always say, like, I was playing ska and punk music from, when I was in high school. So it's just always been the genre of music that I love and I've always gone back to. So the fact that like Say Ferris and the Boss Tones and Real Big Fish and Hepcat and all these bands got, really big and the ska scene blew up and stuff like that, it was kind of already what I was doing before it got popular. So I would definitely say I kind of fall in the camp of somebody who loved ska and punk regardless if it's popular. I mean, obviously I'm still playing in it now, and there's no money to be made in it right now. It's just, you do it because you love it and you do it for the experiences and the people and all that kind of stuff. But so Say Ferris, it was just like, right place, right time, where that was the band that I happened to be in when it blew up and got big and got crazy, and we got to tour all over the world and played, hundreds and hundreds of shows in that band. And just, it was a big part of my life for 5 years. I was on the road nonstop, and that's all I did was that band.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys only did that one album, right? Or was there two?
We did an EP first. It was a 6-song EP. We sold that out of the trunk of our car. And it was kind of one of those crazy things where we created our own record label, and we just drove around to all the local record shops and distributed the CDs ourselves. And the first time we went into a record store, it was like, hey, we got a box of CDs. Would you guys be interested in like doing consignment or something? And they're like, yeah, we'll take a box, whatever, the local shops and stuff. And so we give them a box. And then we were playing around in the local scene with all the other bands, Aquabats, Real Big Fish, and, whoever. And then a couple of days later, we get a phone call from the store going, hey, do you have any more of those CDs? And we're like, yeah, sure. We'll come by and drop them off. And so we drop off another box of CDs. And then a couple of days later, they'd be like, hey, can we buy 5 boxes of those CDs? And we'd be like, sure. And so it kind of just snowballed into this crazy business that we really didn't see coming, where we were distributing all the CDs out of the trunk of our car, and we sold over 15,000 CDs, which is an insane amount of CDs when you're thinking like it's literally a box of 25 at a time. And we have to literally get in our car and drive to Bionic Records or Mad Platter or wherever it is we're going to like give them the CDs. But what was a crazy story about it was then when the record labels came knocking, usually the way it works is they sign a band that maybe has a little bit of juice going, where like there's some notoriety or people know who they are or whatever, and then they'll help build what you've got into this massive thing. And with us, we already could say, oh no, we've sold 15,000 CDs without anybody's help at all. So we got to pick like which label wanted to take us to the next level, where we could be like, all right, how do we get these CDs in Europe and Asia and South America and, all over the United States and stuff. So that was kind of why we went on and did the label thing, and went that route, because that was kind of the logical next step for us, because we, a lot of stuff we couldn't do on our own. So then we did a full length album. That's the one, It Means Everything, that most people know, with Come On Eileen and Goodbye and The World Is New and stuff. And that was our first full length album. And then we did another album after that called Modified in 1999, 2000. like around there. And by that time, ska was kind of waning, and everybody was trying to still figure out how to have a living doing what we were doing. And it was kind of on the radio. It was all about Limp Bizkit and Korn and Backstreet Boys or NSYNC and stuff. So what we were doing just wasn't in anymore. It was kind of out. And so that second album we did, it still had plenty of ska and punk on it, but we were also trying to find like new lanes with our fan base and with trying to keep young people coming into what we were doing. And that was kind of the end of the band, in my opinion, where we kind of just ran our course. We did what we did for 5 years, and it was like time to move on to something else. But we were on a ton of soundtracks, and we did a bunch of like commercials and things like that over in Japan and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of other recordings, but like actual albums, there was the EP, the first full length, and then the second full length, and then that was pretty much what we did.
So when you were selling them out of your car, how many record shops were you driving to? Was just whoever hit you up, hey, can we have a box? You drive out somewhere, or were there specific ones that you went to?
I mean, back then, the like subculture, like ska punk, alternative record shop, CD shops were all over the place. I mean, almost every cool city had at least one or two. And if there was a college, there was usually one there. So, we would take them with us on the road when we tour. And then we would also just, Orange County, San Diego, Riverside, LA, just everything that was within our driving bubble, we would just, be dropping them off there. Outside of the bubble, we would still sell stuff like when we come through town. So like when we were in Vegas or Phoenix or something, I'm sure we would drop them off at the local shops, while we were there. And we were going to those towns a lot. But anywhere outside of our driving bubble for the first couple of years of the band probably didn't get much exposure to us. It wasn't until, we were on the major label that, you could find our CD in pretty much any record store.
Nice. So lastly, on your little profile, what are your 3 world records?
Oh, that's funny. I'm a big, I should say I'm an Angels fan first and then a baseball fan second, because I grew up in Anaheim. So the Angels are always going to be my team. But they used to do these promotions where you would come out to a game and they would do a thing and you'd be a Guinness Book of World Record holder. So one of them was they gave everybody a cowboy hat, and they made everybody in the stadium wear the cowboy hat at the same time. And then they brought Guinness Book out to verify that, there was 50,000+ people all wearing cowboy hats at the same time. So I guess that was one of our records. They did the same thing the next year with wrestling masks. So it was 50,000 people all wearing wrestling masks at the same time. And then the third one was, I'm totally forgetting the third one right now, but it was the same type of deal where you wore like a thing, and then Guinness Book would say, oh, we see that 50,000 people at one event are all wearing this thing. So I know I did it 3 different times.
That's kind of funny. That cracks me up.
Yeah, right.
Nothing wrong with that. I'd put that on there too.
Right.
So if we'd back things up, why'd you start with the trombone? Like what got you into doing that first?
Great question. Really just has everything to do with my arm length. I really wanted to play sax. I remember when I was in elementary school, the jazz band came by and kind of promoted like, hey, when you get to junior high, you can play in the jazz band. So I'm like, I want to do that. That looks cool. Something I wanted to do that nobody told me to do, or it wasn't anything that like, my parents made me do, because I was still finding my way in my own individuality. And so I remember being like, yeah, I want to play, in a horn band, kind of thing. That looks fun. And so I wanted to play sax. And then the director was like, no, your arms are too long. Like sax, no, we need you to play trombone. So I'm like, okay, I guess trombone it is. And so that's kind of what started it for me. But I will say this, as a kid, my grandparents used to play like big band swing music. That was kind of the stuff that they were into. And I always remember like really, loving that kind of stuff and just really being like, that would be really cool one day to play in a big band or something like that. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's what my parents used to listen to. I still have memories of Henry Mancini and Dave Burbeck's Take 5. Like those are the 2 ones that I can always remember them playing. Maybe they played more, but those are the only 2 I remember.
I had the Pink Panther soundtrack, and I used to listen. I probably listened to that thing probably 500 times. So yeah, Mancini's he's definitely awesome.
Oh yeah.
And then from there it was like just like I said, I grew up in Orange County in the 80s, so it was like the like local bands, when you go to like a house party or whatever, there'd be like bands like No Doubt and Sublime and, the Donkey Show and just, the Untouchables and Fishbone. And there was just, those were the local bands. Those were the bands that were like, you know, our local scene at the time, that were the up and coming bands, the new bands, and just, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I would ditch school at lunch to go watch No Doubt play, some local, free show at Cal State Fullerton or some park in Anaheim or something like that. And it was just, that's what you did growing up in that area and at that time. And being a horn player, I always remember looking up on stage going, oh, I could do that too. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, I don't just have to play in the school band. Like, I could actually, go do something cool with this. And that's kind of what got me started, doing this. A friend of mine was at a local punk rock alternative clothing shop, and he saw a flyer on the wall. Like, people would always advertise looking for a bass player or looking for a drummer or whatever. And he saw a flyer for somebody looking for some horn players and grabbed it for me and said, here you go, dude. And so I called the dude and we started a band. And, then it was just like, that band was really, really bad and horrible, but then got into another band and maybe a little better and then a little better. And just over time, just got more proficient at it and kind of learned the ropes with being in a band and how it works, and met some really cool people, and, just kind of, just kind of became a big part of my life.
Well, that's cool. So if we go with Bite Me Bambi, how long have you been with Bite Me Bambi?
Well, we started the band in 2018, 2019, around there.
Ooh, right before COVID. Ooh.
Yeah, it was such a bummer. We had so many cool things lined up for the band. Like, we were going to do a tour with Real Big Fish and the Aquabats. We were going to do a lap around the United States with them. We had a tour booked in Australia, and we had a European tour booked. Had East Coast, West Coast. Like, we had all these tours booked in like 2020, and all of it got canceled. And it was just like, oh man.
That
So
hurts.
yeah. So, and we'd already started to build quite a bit of hype before COVID. So it was kind of like, it was getting ready to just like really like take off for us and really allow us to do some really cool stuff. And then COVID just kind of knocked it out from under us, and, just kind of put us in this like limbo state where we were like, oh man, like, what are we going to do? And so we were hanging out with Chris Grau one time, and that's when he approached us about, what you guys should do, since you can't do shows right now, you guys should look into doing Twitch. And we were like, what's Twitch? And he was like, Twitch is like huge. Like, it's this whole like, uh, uh, like Wayne's World public access channel where you can do whatever you want and just kind of stream to the world and do your own thing. And it's a way for you guys to increase Bite Me Bambi's presence in the world without actually leaving your house and without, touring or all that kind of stuff. And so we were like, all right, let's give it a shot and see what happens and stuff. So we started streaming in 2020, and I feel like it's late 2020. And we've been streaming ever since, where, we stream right now, we're streaming twice a week, and we go on for a couple of hours. Talina, our lead singer, she just goes on and does people request like, punk songs, ska songs, whatever, pop songs. She does musicals, like whatever. People just request it. But what we found out about Twitch that was kind of the secret sauce that we didn't understand before we started was that it created a place where we could create a community of people, where people could like what we like and we like what we like, and we could all kind of hang out, get to know each other, and just like develop relationships and friendships and stuff with people. And it's people all over the world that are literally on all of our streams, that are constantly there, and they're always promoting to other people and stuff. And so for the 2.5 years of lockdown, instead of us doing like a lot of bands where they just kind of sat on their hands and just waited for COVID to open up to start doing shows again, we spent that whole time recording songs, recording music videos with Chris, going on Twitch 2-3 times a week, and just, we hustled and we got real busy. And it was funny because after a while, we started building like kind of a bigger community, to where people started noticing like, oh, wow, these guys are turning this into a business, and they're like really turning it into something real. And so then we started getting contacted by other bands that had been around forever, that were like, hey, what are you guys doing? What is that over there? What is this thing called Twitch? And so, we'd have to do this like 10-minute like explanation on like the pitch of Twitch. Like, all right, this is what it is. And, this is how it works, and this is what you got to do to get it to work and stuff. And, it's not for everybody, but it worked for us. You might find it better on Facebook or YouTube or, a different platform. But for us, platform took off, and to this day, now that we're able to do shows again, we're going to markets we've never been to before. And there's people wearing our shirts, singing along to our songs that know our stuff. And we talked to them after the show at the merch table, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've been following you guys on Twitch, and I love what you guys are doing, and I'm super into what Bite Me Bambi's doing." And so that's kind of what we've been up to.
Nice. So I've heard of Twitch. I'm one of those where I'm like, huh? So is it like just you, like you said, just a singer, or is it every now and then all of you, or how does that work? It just depends.
Yeah, no, I had no idea what it was either. No clue. But honestly, I always describe it as kind of being like Wayne's World public access, where it's a platform and you hook up your phone or your camera or your iPad or whatever as the camera, and you do whatever you want. There's people on there that do stand-up comedy. There's people on there that do what you're doing, where they do interview shows. There's a lot of people that do like DJing. That's really popular. Of course, the main thing that people do on there is they game, where people have multiple screens, and one screen will be them playing, a game, and then the other screen will be maybe like their face, while they're playing the game, and then they'll just sit there and chat with people and hang out. And it's kind of, I don't do the gaming very much, but it's kind of like, it reminds me of when I was a kid, or like when we were on tour on the bus and we'd be playing like Tony Hawk or something, and we'd be playing the game, and then, you'd die or whatever, and you'd hand it off to the next guy and he'd play. But the whole time you're passing the controller around, you're still just hanging out, talking and shooting the shit and just, hanging out with your friends, and so that's kind of what Twitch is, where you're just hanging out with your friends and just talking and, just hanging out. And that's really what it is. So yeah, I knew nothing about it either. And what we do with it is our singer Selena spends probably 60% of the time just hanging out, talking about food or TV shows or like funny things that she did or funny stories in the news or whatever. And then she probably spends the other 40% like singing songs, taking requests, or singing songs that she wants to sing, just kind of doing that.
That's not too bad now, because there's a band that I'll follow on Facebook called Psycho Stick. And I never really paid attention. Every now and then they'd have a video, I think, just like you said. Now that you mentioned that they'd be playing the old Zelda, and it's his camera and the face at the bottom talking to somebody. And I guess I never really put two and two together, but that's probably what it is, presumably.
Yeah, or there's other platforms. So like you don't have to do it on Twitch. You could do it on YouTube or Facebook. Like there's other streaming, live streaming platforms out there. I think I remember somebody said there was like over 100 different platforms, but Twitch is probably the biggest one. We just went there because it's a mature platform, and it was real simple to just kind of get it set up and get it going. But yeah, I mean, you could literally, we stream sometimes from the road. So we'll be in a hotel room or whatever, and we'll just jump on the hotel Wi-Fi and use our phones or whatever to, stream the whole thing, and we'll just hang out for 2-3 hours, on our phones, hanging out with our people.
Hey, that's cool. You can do that. So
what I think about it too is it's kind of like, I don't know if you have the same story, but for me, like I remember part of being in the ska punk scene in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, there'd be like a pizza place or a record store or a clothing shop or somewhere, where a coffee shop where everybody would hang out. And it would be like the spot for maybe a summer or maybe a year or two if it was like, someplace that actually like was legit. But it would be the spot where everybody would go hang out. And it would just be like, I'm going to see my friends on Saturday night at this coffee shop, because that's where we all hang out. And then bands play, and, it just becomes like a scene, it's kind of what that is. And so Twitch is kind of able to allow people to do the same thing without leaving your house. And the people joining it, they don't have to turn their camera on. They can literally just chat, which most of them, that's all they do is just chat. And you just hang out and tell stories, and, just, it's like hanging out with your friends, like a couple times a week, which is, it's pretty cool. And especially like with a band, it's a way to connect with like your hardcore fans or people that are really into what you're doing. And, and we've got people in Germany, Singapore, all over the States, it's all over the UK. And so it's like, it allows us to be like, cool, like we haven't been to London yet, but we know when we go, we're going to have a ton of people there because they're already hanging out with us every, time we stream.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, good for you guys. Yeah, like I said, a lot of some of the bands I've been talking to, yeah, COVID really messed some people up. I mean, or not mess people up, but the band just took the wind right out of the sails.
Yep, totally agree.
So who all's in Bite Me Bambi with you?
Well, let's see. We've got Brian Mashburn. He's the guitarist. He was in Safe Ferris with me, and also we were in another band called Starpool after Safe Ferris broke up. And then when Starpool kind of ended, that's when he and I were like, "Hey, let's get something new going here." One of the last couple Starpool shows that we did, we had Talina, the singer for Bite Me Bambi. She came up on stage because every now and then we'd have like a different singer from a different band come up and do a song with us, and so we had her come up on stage and sing a couple Safe Ferris songs with us at one of our headlining shows at the House of Blues. And we were like, wow, she's got some pipes and she's really entertaining. And like people seem to be really into what she's doing and stuff like that. And so that's when Mashburn and I were like, oh, maybe let's see if we want to get something going with her. He was a little reluctant at first. I remember he was like, maybe I'll just do songwriting and stuff, but I'm not sure if I want to play. But eventually he was just like, I'm into this project. Like, let's do it.
This is awesome. I'm in.
Yeah, you know how that goes. You start falling in love with the songs and everything, and you're just like, you see the potential of what you could do with a band, and you're like, oh no, this is cool. So, and then other than that, we just kind of filled in all the players with like different people that we knew from different bands and stuff. We got Mike Baralt. He was the keyboardist in My Superhero, which was like one of the big local ska bands and back in the 90s. And then he's been in a bunch of other projects, and just a friend of ours who we were like, hey, you want to be in this band? And Mike was like, sure, I'll do it. And then we just kind of filled in with other players that we knew. We got Ryan Brown on bass. He's played in a bunch of punk bands back in the day, and just a friend of ours who actually David Alarcon recommended and said, dude, he's a sweet guy. Got to get him if he's available. And so he's been playing bass for us. And then Dan Evans was playing with me in a rock band that I was in before Bite Me Bambi. So when we started Bite Me Bambi, we're like, oh, let's see if Dan wants to do it. So he's been our drummer. And then we had Kyle O'Donnell on sax. He was playing in Starpool also. So we just grabbed him. And he recently left the band, I guess at the end of last year. He's getting married and just kind of was really busy doing other stuff. So we kind of have backups for everybody in case somebody's job won't let them get off time off work. So we kind of have fill-ins for every position except our singer. So the guy who was filling in for us on sax, Edgar, he's playing sax for us now. He's our full-time sax player. And that's pretty much our lineup. Like I said, we've only had the one lineup change where our sax player left. And so, so that's our lineup.
So who is the primary songwriters? I know you talked about with you and Brian were in a band before. Are you guys kind of the primary ones? Or
no, in this project, Brian Mashburn's kind of steering the ship on that. Awesome songwriter. I mean, he was the primary songwriter in Safe Ferris also. And then Talina, our singer, she's a really good songwriter too. So generally what happens, the two of them kind of, all right, we need a bunch of new songs. So the two of them kind of lock each other into the lockout for a couple weeks straight. And then at the end of it, they're like, okay, we got like a dozen new songs, and then we just kind of whittle those out and figure out what the set needs or what the band needs. Or, if we've got too many sound, one style, we want to change it up a little bit. We'll kind of pick and choose what seems like the next logical step for what we're trying to do with the band. But I would say it's primarily Brian Mashburn and then Talina. Like the two of them are, the songwriters for the band.
Okay, that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So as far as some of your singles, have you guys haven't done a full album, or have you, or has it just been a couple singles?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That was the other thing that we did during COVID. It kind of feels like the way I always describe it, it's kind of like how music was in the 50s, where in the 50s, you would just do 45 singles all the time, but you would just constantly do 45s all the time. And then the singles were your thing that the DJs would play on the radio, and that was the song that they'd be pushing until the next single. And you would just constantly be doing that. And that's kind of what we're doing with Bite Me Bambi, where we're just like, let's just keep doing singles. The problem with doing a full-length album is you spend so much time writing it and curating it and making this album that you're just like, okay, here's 10, 12 songs that we just love, and we just put them together in this thing. It just takes so long to record them and finish them and get the whole project done. And then you release the album to the world, and the whole world goes, okay, we've accepted your album. And if you've got fans and people like what you're doing, they go, cool, I like what you did. and then they kind of go, all right, now what's next? And you're just like, I spent
Oh,
like 2 years making this album, and it was like so hard to do, and it's going to take me another 2 or 3 years to make another one. And so like that's how it used to be with records, and you would just spend 2 years touring out that album until you'd work on the next one. And now with this band, we're like, you know what, that model doesn't really seem to work, especially with everybody being fast paced and everybody wanting like more, 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 more. So what we could do is let's just do one song, do a music video for it. We'll release it all over social media and get it all over to our fans on Twitch and everywhere. And then we'll let that video marinate for like 6 weeks, maybe 2 months or so. And then when that song feels like it's kind of dying down or it's done what it's going to do, then we go do another one. And then that's kind of what we've been doing for the last, 3 years, I guess. I don't know exactly how many singles we're up to now, but I think we're getting like around 15 singles now. And we've just been doing a new one every like 2 or 3 months. We just start getting the next one going and shoot a music video with Chris Grau and, release it to the world.
nice. So when we talk about when you guys do your singles, so you write one single at a time. So okay, you're going to write, record, release, make a video. You don't do a couple songs and then release them at certain times. How does that work?
It kind of depends. That's a good question. There's been times where we'll go in and do a session where we'll record 2 or 3 songs at once. Sometimes it's like we'll just literally go in to do one song. But we're definitely not going in and recording like a full album of like 10, 11, 12 songs. We're doing, small little chunks. Sometimes we'll have like 2 or 3 songs in our back pocket that are all ready to go. We just have to do the music video. There's one that we have right now called Girls This Summer that it's going to be our summer song that we're going to release. And we've been kind of sitting on that for like the last 3 months. We'll probably shoot the music video for that next month or so. And probably release that around like May, is my guess.
Nice.
And then we went and did because our last single we released was maybe about like 6 weeks ago, so we're kind of due for something right now. So we went and recorded like 4 or 5 acoustic covers. We're actually finishing up one of them right now. We're probably going to release that in the next like week or two. And then we'll have these like 4 or 5 acoustic songs, but we're only going to release them one at a time. So I think the plan is we'll probably start releasing those kind of sporadically every couple months.
So when you say covers, is there a certain type of covers or just whatever? Hey, we like this song. Let's do this one.
Great question. So usually we're pretty picky about what covers we bring into the band to put our sound on there and do our own style of the song. So when it comes to like songs that we do during our show, we're very like, okay, it's got to be something that meets a specific need to our show, or the crowd can interact a certain way, or it does something to the crowd or whatever. Like we do a cover of Gangsters from the Specials, and that's one of the songs that like when we do that song, like, a crowd just goes nuts when they hear that song, so that's one that we made it our own because Talina's singing it instead of Terry Hall, or Prince Buster. And, it's like we do it our own way with our own sound and people love it. We do the same thing with an Offspring song where it just really crowd loves it. So we incorporate that into our show. With Twitch, Talina can kind of use that as like a proving ground where she can do cover songs or whatever on there, and it's no harm, no foul. I mean, the only people that are going to be watching are our hardcore fans that are way into our Twitch stream. And so we can kind of notice like, oh, Talina sounds really good when she sings this song, or like people request this one over and over and over and over. So there's certain songs where we're just like, yeah, it's, we kind of test it out on Twitch, and then we'll use that to be like, we should incorporate this into the show, or we should, maybe record it, or, do something with it. So it kind of helps us, because a lot of times when you're working on a cover and you're trying to make it your own sound, sometimes, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, most of the time it just doesn't work. You start messing with it and you're just like, man, it just sounds forced, or it sounds like, it doesn't sound like us, or it just, I don't know, it doesn't resonate well with the fans. Like, we did a cover of the Go-Go's or Funboy 3's Our Lips Are Sealed. I love the cover. I love the horn line. Like, it's a great song, and the response on it on the internet is great. But when we play it live, the energy's it's kind of a mid-tempo energy song. So we don't play it live very much, just because, it doesn't keep the energy up where we want it during the live show. So we've kind of just pushed that one aside and said, all right, it's just a recording song, or maybe we'll bust it out once in a while live. But it's an interesting process to figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Hmm. Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that. So what was the last one you did? Was that Hot Lava? Was that the one?
No, that was one of our first singles. Hot Lava was that's the one that went super viral on us, where we put it up on the internet. It was actually our first single that blew up. Up until that point, we were getting videos where we would release them and we get like maybe 4 or 5 thousand people watching the video, and we're like, that's cool. Like 4 or 5 thousand people all over the world are watching this video right now. Like that's awesome. And then when we released Hot Lava, it was doing its normal thing where we get like a couple thousand people watching it and stuff like that. And then it started trending on Reddit, and it went from like
On Reddit?
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
none of us. It was just some Reddit poster really liked the song and posted it on some non-ska like music channel, and it went from like a couple thousand likes to like every hour it would get like 2,000, more views like every hour. It just kept just shooting up, and we were all just like, it was kind of like, it reminded me of what it was like in Safe Ferris when our song got played on the radio the first time. Like it was like, what is going on? This is crazy. Like this. And I remember like the whole band, we're all sitting there with our phones, like refreshing the screen, just watching the view count just shoot through the roof. And it just shot up, and we were like, that's crazy. And so honestly, ever since that video, all of our videos have been much bigger view counts. It feels like that helped get us on the map with a lot of ska punk fans all over the world. And so ever since then, like almost every video we've done, it's like over 20,000 views, 30, 40,000 views. Some of them are over 50,000 views. So it's like, for a band that's not on a label or radio or anything like that, it's just us. Like we're pretty happy with that kind of, exposure we're getting.
Nice. So is your latest one? That one's Let Me Love You.
Yeah.
I had those backwards. Maybe I had it sorted wrong.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah. The sorting on YouTube can get kind of funky on popularity or what's new or whatever. Yeah. Let Me Love You is the newest one that we did. We shot that, at the beginning of the year, I think. So, yeah, and I think it's our first reggae song that we've ever done a video for. So it's a little slower tempo, and it's a longer song. Most of our songs are like 2.5, 3 minutes long. This one's like 4.5. So it's a longer one, but
that's a ballad right there.
yeah, right. Seriously, these days. But it's one of those songs where, we play it live and the crowd really responds to it and stuff. And Talina gets some like hand movement with the crowd and everybody gets into that and stuff. So it's kind of a cool moment during our show. And then the music video, it's hilarious. We usually when we come up with the ideas for the stories, we sit down with Chris and we just start brainstorming ideas, and then whatever sticks, we kind of execute and make it happen. And we have our whole army of people in the band that we all just kind of, this guy does that person does this, and everybody does their jobs and stuff. And we're getting so good at it now. We've been doing it for so long that it's like, the videos are just, like I said, they look super pro, and Chris is filming him with his smartphone, and just, it's all about the editing and putting it all together, and, all the magic that he can do to tell a story and stuff. And yeah, the Let Me Love You story is pretty funny because, we released it during Valentine's Day. That's what it was. It was in February. I remember now. We shot it in January, released it in February. We did a show with Hepcat that was like a Valentine's Day weekend show. And so we wanted to have a new song that was like a love song for Valentine's Day. And so that's what Let Me Love You is, where Talina's Cupid. She's kind of a drunken punk rock Cupid. And the video starts with her helping a girl who's kind of got a crush on a guy at a bar. And the girl's like, yeah, that's the guy I think is cute. Hit him with your love arrow so we can fall in love. And Talina's drunk Cupid, and she reaches into her thing to grab her arrow, and she accidentally doesn't grab one of the love arrows. She accidentally grabs a real arrow, and she shoots and accidentally kills the guy. And that's like the start of the video is Cupid accidentally killing this man accidentally. And then she brings him back to life with a Ouija board, and love ensues.
You ask me if there's no other one, but deep inside you know it's true. You won my heart, but I'm still free. You got to love me as I be. Believe in me like I believe in you. Was your heart so full of doubt? My love for you won't change, so why start now? Just because I know my mind doesn't mean my heart will change. It gets stronger over time. So love, let me love you. Let me love you in my own way. Love, let me love you. Let me love you in my own way. Now everybody sing it. La 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 la. Now let me hear you sing it. La 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 Now let me love you, baby. Let me love you. Oh, baby, let me love you in my own way. La 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 Hey, sorry about the whole murdering you thing.
Oh no, it's fine. It's way better up here.
Sick.
Yeah, I thought that one was funny, but I'd still say my favorite is Stripper on Sunday. Or
Yeah.
Strippers on Sunday.
Yeah,
That one
That's-
made me chuckle.
that's a favorite for me too, for sure. For sure. And that was our first one. That was the first one that started this whole thing for us.
I love French. Some people like pancakes and some people like brunch. Some people like mimosas, but I like something you can't munch. You may say it's sacrilegious, but you don't know me that well. Just 'cause I blew my paycheck doesn't mean I'm going
So now, did Chris do all your videos also? Like, is he your main video person? Video.
He's done all the videos. I think the only ones that he hasn't done during the beginning of COVID, when everybody was doing those acoustic songs, Selena would kind of edit those on her Mac, where it's just her singing, and then you'd see our guitarist like split screen or whatever, playing acoustic guitar or whatever. We've got a couple of those that we did, but all our actual music videos that are like full production with story and all that kind of stuff, those are all 100% Chris Grau.
Oh, nice. Another one that I thought was fun was Our Lips Are Sealed.
Can you hear them? They talk about us, telling lies. Well, that's no surprise. Can you see them? See right through them. They have no shield, no secrets to reveal. Doesn't matter what they say. In the jealous games people play, our lips are sealed. There's a weapon that we must use in our defense. Silence. When you look at them, look right through them. That's when they'll disappear. That's when we'll be feared. Doesn't matter what they say. In the jealous games people play, our lips are sealed. Ain't no matter what they say. Doesn't matter anyway. Our lips are sealed. Hush, my darling, don't you cry. Quiet angel, forget their lies. Can you hear them? They talk about us, telling lies. Well, that's no surprise. Can you see them? See right through them. They have no shield, no secrets to reveal. Doesn't matter what they say. In the jealous games people play, our lips are sealed. Ain't no matter what they say. Doesn't matter anyway. Our lips are sealed. Our lips are sealed.
That was a fun summer video. It was a funny video too to shoot because we shot it over in Long Beach, and I don't know if you know how permitting works with like music videos and stuff, but you're supposed to go to the city and say, "Hi, we'd like to film a video here. Can we buy a permit here? Is it $500 for the video to shoot for the permit and stuff?" But Chris Grau's punk rock, and he's like, "We're not doing that. We're just gonna do it. And if somebody catches us, then we're just gonna run away." And so we shot the whole video on the beach without a permit, and Selena absolutely loves following the rules. Like, she hates breaking rules. And so the whole time we're shooting the video, she's just like, "We're gonna get in trouble, and I'm gonna be upset." And we're all just clowning her and stuff. And of course, it's Long Beach. Like, the cops have got way bigger fish to fry in Long Beach than dealing with us. So
That corrects me. Yeah, I want to, because that's why I asked him. Because I've never done the video and the permits, but I've heard that depending on the city, that it can be an absolute pain.
Yeah.
So I just asked him, hey, what's it like? He's like, well, if you do it quick enough, nobody knows.
Yep. Yeah, at the beginning of Hot Lava, there's a scene where we needed to establish the scene that it was at a library. So drunken Cupid Tolina's out in front of a library that they just went to some library in LA and filmed the scene real quick. And it was funny because they got the take in like 2 minutes or whatever. But they said even in the 2 minutes, they'd already had somebody come out and yell at them and stuff for what they were doing and stuff. So it's just one of those, it's pretty funny.
That cracks me up. People are all anal about everything.
Yeah. Well, I think what it comes down to is they really don't want you to shoot your video there. So they just make it a pain in the butt so that you just go, we'll go shoot it somewhere else. It's
I
like,
guess that makes sense.
If you try to shoot a video in Irvine, I'm sure Irvine is just going to make your life hell. And you're going to be like, you know what? We'll just go somewhere that doesn't care.
Yeah. Another one I enjoyed was video games.
Yeah, that one was pretty cool. Chris went crazy with that one on the whole like special effects and all that kind of stuff that he did with it. So I remember that was pretty wild. A lot of green screen and stuff that we'd never done before. But we shot the whole thing pretty much in one day, where he just went in and got the whole, shoot and just, did his magic and made like a crazy story about, us all getting zapped into a video game until having to rescue us.
I thought it just reminded me of total 80s. And maybe that's what he was going for with the video game thing, but that's
100%. 100%. That's totally, we were all 80s in that video for sure.
And it's finished.
What does it do?
I don't know.
There was a time you used to treat me right, but now we're fighting almost every night. How did I fall into this game? I had the codes, now I think they're lost, and every day I fight a brand new boss. When will this nightmare ever end? I don't wanna be your entertainment for the evening. I don't wanna be somebody's game. You turn it on and off, yeah, when you know you're leaving, and I only wish that I could feel the same. I found myself on the next level, and suddenly I'm in trouble. The big boss and his men are at it again. An extra life and a fireball. Suddenly I'm not so small. Maybe this time I'll finally win. I don't wanna be your entertainment for the evening. I don't wanna be somebody's game. You turn it on and off, yeah, when you know you're leaving, and I only wish that I could feel the same. Yeah, I only wish that I could feel the same. Yeah, I only wish that I could feel the same. I never ever talk to strangers. I was the kind of kid who ever talked back. Always looking out for danger. I never step on a sidewalk crack. Cause superstition runs deep. When you're all alone, and you know it's hard to sleep. When you're far from home. But I keep looking for the strength within. I'm gonna push right through until the very end. Cause I won't let you break me down. Tonight I'm gonna find my way and win. I don't wanna be your entertainment for the evening. I don't wanna be somebody's game. Turn it on and off, yeah, when you know you're leaving, and I only wish that I could feel the same. Yeah, I only wish that I could feel the same. Yeah, I only wish that I could feel the same. Gonna win your game. Gonna win your game. Gonna win your game.
Okay. Yep, I admit it. That's my bad. Reporters?
So was it kind of awkward using the green screen? Did it take a little bit to get used to?
Yeah, it's a little funky. He's like, imagine you're being attacked by a giant dragon, and you're just like, what? He's like, just trust me, just do this. And you're like, okay.
My imagination doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and you kind of just have to trust Chris that he's looking through the lens and he sees what he thinks he needs. And if he thinks, oh, we got it, I got the element that I need or whatever, we can go on to the next thing. Because Chris is super fast. I mean, it's crazy how quickly he can just be like so many of the things we did, they were just one take, just, we got it, let's go on to the next thing,
Yeah, that saves a lot of frustration if you can do it quickly. For sure.
Yeah. for sure.
Um, can we insert some of these songs in here? Like if we put the video or just the music?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Just need to check because I've been dinged a few times. Didn't think I would by the overlords.
Well, I mean, you've got our permission, but whether that means YouTube or whoever's going to allow that or not, I mean, they ding us on our own stuff sometimes.
Well,
That's-
when I talked with Dave, the first video I did when I talked with Dave, it just put one of their songs on there, and some YouTube playlist dinged it as theirs. I'm like, you
Yeah.
kidding me? That's not how this works. But whatever.
Yeah.
So what's going on next for Bite Me Bambi? I know you guys have a tour coming up soon or something in May.
Yeah, we're doing a show with Fishbone next month up in Fresno, and then there's a band from London called the Skints. I don't know if you know them or not, but they're awesome ska reggae band that's been around. They've been around for about 10 years. They're a four-piece, just all four of them, super talented. One of my favorite bands that's come out of London in the last 10 years. So they're coming out to the West Coast. They're doing some dates with the Interrupters, and then in between those Interrupter dates, they had a few days off. So our managers or our people all approached each other and said, "Hey, why don't we put everybody together for these dates?" So we're doing like a West Coast run with them to fill in that. That'll be really cool. And then there's a big ska supernova music festival in Virginia Beach that's in September. They do that every year, and so we're playing that this year. It'll be our first time playing that, so that'll be really cool. And it's got all the big ska bands are all playing it. You've got Tokyo Ska from Japan. You've got Bad Manners coming over from the UK, Fishbone, Agrolites, and it's Stranger Cole, some of the old school guys from the '60s. I mean, it's just it's a big 3-day ska festival out in the middle of Virginia Beach. So
how's that? You guys are just going to drive straight out there, play a show, and drive straight back? You going to fly, use equipment out there? What's that going to end up being?
I think the plan right now is to fly out there and use other bands' gear. We'll just bring our guitars and our horns and stuff, and just plug into people's amps. So I think that's what we're going to do. And then we'll probably, when we get out there, we'll probably do like a week's worth of shows while we're there. Because we're just doing the one show on Sunday with the 3-day festival. But from Virginia Beach, you could easily drive to DC and New York, Baltimore, Philly, Boston, all that stuff. So we'll probably do that East Coast run. We did that last year with the Slackers and Big D and the Kids Table. So it's like once you're out there, you might as well just knock out a bunch of dates while you're there. So that's
Might as well have a party.
Yeah, right. It's
So
like
so you're going to just do it for a week? That's about kind of the length of how long that's going to be, or you're going to do just whatever comes up?
I mean, we'll put it together as needed, but I mean, honestly, everybody's got day jobs. Bands don't really pay the bills anymore. So it's kind of like, all right, we'll weekend warrior it and fly out there, and, maybe people just use their vacation time or whatever to, hit all the big cities that we want to hit while we're out there, and then fly home. But I mean, honestly, the plan with this band, at least for the immediate future, I think is just going to be just do like weekend touring. And then if something really cool comes along, a bigger band that, wants to do something with us, maybe we'll jump on that for a week or two. But for the most part, I think it's just a weekend trips. And then we're still trying to get over to, there's grumblings about us going to Australia this fall, and then trying to get over to the UK too. So our fans are pissed that we haven't been to the UK yet. And we're just like, we keep trying to make it happen. It's just finding time and making it all happen.
If people want to go see some of these shows, they could just go to bitemebambi.com or
yeah, we've got bitemebambi.com. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook, Twitch, all those places. And then if they want to see us on Twitch, like I said, we stream live twice a week. If you go to our Twitch channel, just twitch.tv/bitemebambi, it has our schedule there. So you'll see when we're streaming live. And it's a fun place to just hang out with our people. And, and then we're always releasing new videos on YouTube. And just, hopefully we'll be able to start playing more shows now that COVID's letting up, and, we can actually start doing stuff again.
Totally awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys got things planned out, and I'm glad it's good that Twitch has worked for you guys. It didn't take a blow to you guys as hard as some it did. Good for you guys.
Thanks, man. We just, when you get lemons, you gotta make lemonade, right?
Hopefully. All right. Well, thanks, T-Bone, and have a good evening or afternoon. I guess it is still.
Yeah, thanks, man. You too.
There's something I need to say, but I really just don't know. I want for you to stay, but I cannot let you go. I know it's not your style, but won't you stay a while here with me? Don't you see? Baby, we're burning hot lava, we're melting to the floor. Baby, we're burning hot lava, please don't shut that door. Baby, we're burning. Baby, we're burning. Baby, we're burning hot lava, please don't shut that, please don't shut that door. You're the one who lifts me up when I am feeling down, and you always crack me up. We're the best team around. So won't you be the one to take a chance and run away with me? Don't you see? Baby, we're burning hot lava, we're melting to the floor. Baby, we're burning hot lava, please don't shut that door. Baby, we're burning. Baby, we're burning. Baby, we're burning hot lava, please don't shut that, please don't shut that door. Can't you hear just what I'm saying? That I need you here tonight. Tell me that you plan on staying, and that everything will be alright. Everything will be alright tonight. Don't fear, there's no need to be hiding. Just say no, we'll only be denying. Tonight, tonight. Why wait, baby, why are we stalling? Just take my hand, you know that we'll be falling. Tonight, tonight. Baby, we're burning hot lava, we're melting to the floor. Baby, we're burning hot lava, please don't shut that door. Baby, we're burning.